I've been watching this match for the past like 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been watching what match?
The one that you're hosting,
Oh yeah. It's Dark
US
Zero.
Division.
Yeah, Dark Zero versus Space Station.
Yeah.
And welcome everyone. We are live. Am I still
Nice.
hosting it, or is my stream actually up?
No, you're good now.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. You're good now.
That is cool.
So I guess we can give a couple minutes so more people get in here or something.
Yeah.
An ad is actually playing on my end for you.
Is it a Trojan ad?
No, it is Star Trek.
So
Like Trojan condoms?
yeah, okay, so we can just banter for a few minutes. So yeah,
Sure.
like lots. If you're watching lots of Twitch, you're seeing a lot of Trojan advertisements.
Really?
Yeah.
Or are you sure that's not based on the shit you're doing on your end of the internet, on your devices?
Well, I'm not sure, but I've seen other people on Twitter posting about like Twitch, please take off all the Trojan advertisements. Like some of these streams
Might
are
be
marketed
more
to
of a
kids.
statement of what all y'all are actually looking at.
Yeah, I Google search condoms all the time, but no, I mean,
Well,
No, but just like the sci-fi aspect of like me getting a Star Trek ad makes
Or are condoms necessarily a bad thing?
No. I mean, I don't personally like them, but
yeah, but
Yeah.
no, I think like some people were upset because a lot of the streams, like on a Fortnite stream, like a little kid hops in and it's like, and the advertisement, it's like 4 boxes and it's like they go through multiple of their condoms, like, you know,
But
like
I mean,
the different
let's be honest,
types. And,
probably the viewership of Fortnite is the ones that actually need to be shown condom ads.
possibly, I actually recently saw a study that was saying that
Perhaps.
Normalizing it makes it acceptable.
no, the article was saying it was talking about like studies looking at like schools that are giving out free condoms and like if like access to condoms actually like help or anything, and like the study was arguing, and I don't know if there's lots of studies replicating it or getting similar results, but the study argued that actually pregnancy rates increased, things like that amongst kids actually increased after like years of
Pretty
Wow.
sure the average is going down though of teen pregnancy, like the percentage.
it wasn't like a ridiculous source like InfoWars or Fox News or something, like it was like an NPR or Washington Post or something like that.
Interesting. Interesting. I would have to look
Isn't
at that.
birth? I feel like birth control is becoming more and more common.
Well, birth control is also not just prescribed to control birth.
Right. It's for
Many
hormonal
reasons.
purposes. It's
Yeah,
for
there's
hormonal
many,
purposes
many
too, right?
reasons that women, actually, probably most of the people that I know, and even me personally, when I got on birth control, it was not to actually prevent pregnancy.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I remember we had a couple kids who were taking it, and it wasn't for, pregnancy purposes. It was actually to regulate their, I think, regulate their cycles, right?
And sometimes, people just have really bad pain, and birth control pills are prescribed for that too, to help reduce that as well.
Right.
I've also heard acne.
Oh, it does
Well,
it?
that's tied to the hormones.
Yeah.
Right. I wonder when they're going to come out with birth control for men besides vasectomies.
They've tried.
They tried, except the men in the clinical trial were all like, oh, this makes us depressed. And surprise, I mean, they did that for women too. It's the same damn effect. But they were complaining about the side effects too much, so they pulled it.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. Well, maybe they can come up with something new?
I think that one was like a legitimate, they tried to create like a
Really?
literal pill for dudes.
Oh, damn.
They've also
I would have taken that.
So they also have like, I don't know if it's like widely used or if it's past like FDA, but they've also made like a switch that you get installed. And
Installed?
yeah, you get it installed and you can flip the switch. I'm not making
I
this
imagine
up.
it's like the implant that, but you can't flip it on women. Like
This
turn it
thing,
on
it's
or
an
off on
implant that
women.
you can like turn on, and it allows like you to be like fertile, and you can turn it off. It's like a little switch.
Okay, so they make that for women with no ability to turn it on or off, but but yet they give men the ability to turn it on if they want to.
I don't think it's meant.
Where is it installed? I mean,
Oh,
where
it's
is
in
it
your-
women, it's
implanted?
in their arm.
Dude, for men, it's like in your crotch. Like, it's like a switch. I'm not making this up. It's a thing.
So I have to like
sounds-
reach
this
down and
sounds
flip it
not
on and
real.
off.
This
Like every time I want to be like, if I want to have kids, I just go
Yeah.
and I just flip it on.
Yeah.
But what if you
I'm very
accidentally flip it on
skeptical
during
about
sex?
this.
There's a whole. I'm gonna have to look this up.
Please do.
Maybe I'm just full of shit
I'm
here.
very, very
I don't know, man.
skeptical.
I would imagine that to be like kind of risky because like if there's like a lot of stuff going on down there and you flip the switch on by accident,
Because
you
and
know.
I'm just thinking, like, how really is it like a filter that they like control access through that just like keeps all the little spermies from coming out as well? Like, that's what I don't get.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not going to get rid of, like, it's not going to stop the flow of, I don't know. This is a fun conversation.
Yeah, by the way, anyone who's already in here, this is not the topic of tonight. We're just.
Yeah, we're not talking about semen and sperm because I know semen is different than sperm because sperm are the
Yes.
actual,
That is true.
and then the semen is what it travels in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if they were able to, if they can somehow disable the sperm and just allow semen, it kind of works like the
Well,
vasectomy,
and
right? Because that's what a
exactly, the
vasectomy
way-
is.
Yeah, that's the way a vasectomy is. But it would be like manual control of that mechanism.
Boom! The male contraception that makes you infertile by flicking a switch. A form of male contraception has been invented that allows a man to make himself temporarily infertile by simply flicking a switch.
Oh,
That would
okay.
get
So it's
tricked
located
so
under the skin.
much.
This video of the dick just popped there, guys. Sorry, guys. There's like
Speaking of abs,
It was
that
CGI.
goes to this-
It doesn't matter.
It was CGI.
Oh my god.
It was anatomical. Everyone, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's not pornographic. It's anatomical. But yeah, it's like a whole switch thing.
So where's that located? Is it in the ground?
Outside of his scrotum skin.
So you're gonna just be like, wait 1 second, let me go down there and make sure.
So I can never have my balls fondled when I have that device implanted. in
Exactly,
me.
it would get tricked so much.
Now
Or
what's-
like, how level of it, how much pressure is required? You know, what do you
Wow.
think the spring mechanism is on such?
We are absolutely terrible.
Now, what's important, I just have to, and then we'll get on track here, is that I did not make this up. That is important to
You
clear.
did not, for one.
Yeah.
Yes,
For once.
you were right.
Yeah. Okay. So we are live with Mind Games. If anyone survived the that conversation, thank you for being here with us.
Oh, that's fun.
So we have a guest with us. Clearly, I'm pointing because she's actually right over there. We have Denphasia.
Hello.
I've done Phasia.
Hi.
So you guys are gonna have to go a little in depth with imposter syndrome because I haven't heard of that much. So can you give me like a
Really?
yeah, I haven't heard of it much. I'm pretty sure I've heard of, you know, the symptoms of it and stuff like that and what that looks like, but I never knew that it was called imposter syndrome.
Huh. Well, that's probably
Yeah.
good for you. That means you're probably very not susceptible to it.
So
Maybe not.
for anyone who doesn't know, like the definition, if you were to like go on Wikipedia, it's a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their accomplishments or talents and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud.
So you take like it's like the fake it till you make it, except the faking it works really well, and you think you'll get found out and be revealed as a fraud. For me, it's not luck based.
Right.
Like,
Off
I don't
topic.
think I'm lucky.
Do you know what we should have named our stream title today?
What's that?
Among Us IRL.
That would have been good, actually.
That would have been so
That would have
good.
been good. That would have been good.
Next time.
next time we talk about
Next time.
imposter syndrome.
Among Us IRL. That would work.
You know, the stairway effect. You always think of exactly the right thing to do 5 seconds later.
Yep.
After you can't do it anymore.
So, yeah. Tell us more about imposter syndrome.
So, for me, it actually probably started when I was getting ready to start grad school. I don't know anybody, like, no one in my family has gone to grad school. don't even know, even when I was in grad school and I got a job as a graduate research assistant, I had no friends that did anything similar to I do. I still really even don't. Probably the closest person that I know that does something remotely similar where we can kind of like talk about work is Textural Fiber. I mean, he works in a lab and I do not.
Right.
But also, I think another level of it was right before we moved up here. I was really concerned about my accent. Making me sound stupid and uneducated. And I unconsciously have suppressed it over the years, which is weird.
What accent did you have?
I'm from Tennessee
Wait,
originally.
wait, wait. Do you not hear it?
No, I don't.
Huh.
Oh.
I don't hear it at all.
If I spoke to my mother for about 5 minutes right now, it would come back out. And it would probably come out over the course of the evening as I continue to drink my wine.
That's fine. I'd be interested to hear it. I like accents. I mean, if you're from anywhere else, you'd probably think that I have an accent.
No.
No, not like an Asian accent. I mean,
Well,
like
no, I mean,
if
even
you.
We weren't
Like,
assuming Asian. Like we.
No, I'm saying like if I went to like England or something, they would think I have an accent.
Oh well, yeah. I've been told
if
that
I think
have,
they have an accent, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like accents. I guess I should say different from mine. I like hearing
That
them.
makes much more sense. But yeah, no,
Okay.
I have a pretty thick, natural Southern.
Really?
And not the good kind of Southern accent either. The kind that just sounds like gritty and dirty.
I think that's cool though. Drink some more so I can hear it.
It's certain words. Certain words will come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear
there's
it.
one. But
But so basically, like, also probably didn't help that my education is in philosophy, and that generally elicits like what the fuck kind of reactions from people. Like, what the hell are you gonna do with that is a very common question, and not completely illegitimate, but I have done something with it and I totally use it. But even where I work now, which is the largest place, I actually have coworkers for once. I'm not intellectually isolated anymore, which is super cool. But even at the place that I work, where there's probably maybe 1,700 or so research staff, there's only one other person across all of our offices that has an educational background in philosophy, and he at least has a PhD, and I only have an MA.
Interesting.
So I have no formal instruction on like qualitative methodologies, but yet I am doing quite well at work. And it's weird. And actually, Chris and I Dontoni and I were just having a conversation a little earlier about I'm not a good judge of my own work, because when I think something is shit, other people seem to like it, which is kind of like a weird sense, because it makes me feel like at some point I'm gonna fuck up and it's probably gonna be bad.
I see.
And I'm not gonna know it either beforehand, because I can't judge the quality of my own work.
And would you say is there like a fine line between like being critical about your work and comparing it to, or saying that it's shitty or something like that? Like, are you ever critical about your work? Are you ever very clear about whether you're being critical or you're just saying it's garbage?
Well, that being probably me saying like something I did was shitty is probably just my own way of terming being critical about my own work. I mean, what I do is critical thinking. So I mean, I like, for instance, putting together a slide deck. I just did a briefing today. I was putting together a slide deck to present. And I was not happy with my findings of my analysis. Because I didn't think there was a there. The people who I presented to were extremely happy. And like said I knocked it out of the park, and I will be doing a much larger presentation to a huge group in about 3 weeks. I didn't think I actually gave them anything.
But that's been like a recurring theme, right? Is that like were because I recall conversations we've had where you've been like really worried about A, B, and C that you were working on. All the feedback has always come back like, oh my God, you're amazing. You do the work in like a third of the time as other people. Like, so you're getting positive feedback, but yet in your mind, there's still, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's still that like nagging feeling of like.
Yeah, because I don't see it as being that good. Like, in my mind, if they were to have presented me with what I gave them, I would view it as like, meh.
Like I've been critical of my work. I mean there were times where I feel like, I can make this better, I can make this better, or this is not good enough. And other people think it's really good. And I'm not sure if people are just stroking my ego.
Exactly. See, that's always been something I've wondered.
Is that part of imposter syndrome? Does that apply to it? Like if you're just being like overly critical on yourself?
But if you think that so for me it's I don't think I am what they think I am, so I am the imposter.
Right.
Like, I don't belong here.
Yes, I have a client that's actually going through this right now, and I see lots of parallels because both being, young women, highly educated in a very, like, professional environment. So, like, she works for the government. And in her case, she doesn't think she actually belongs. Like, she doesn't think that she deserves the job she has, that she's good at what she does, even though she's getting constant feedback from supervisors like, you're doing well. I mean, she's well educated. But like, no matter what sort of feedback she gets, in her mind, like, it was always that she wakes up every morning with, like, her heart just, like, before work. And when she gets into work, she's fine. But, like, going into it, she's always like, oh my God.
Yeah, and then when you do get positive feedback, you just think it's like, oh, they're just stroking my ego. They're just doing, smooth talking right now. Or they think I'm fishing for compliments when I'm legitimately asking, like, I want to do some personal professional development. Like, let's do kind of like an evaluation right now. What are things I can work on? And then it just turns into like, oh, you're great. Like, that's like, I legitimately want constructive feedback on how to be better.
Right.
And color to your question, like, you were asking, like, so I think, like, obviously imposter syndrome is not like an actual mental health diagnosis, but I would say it reaches that threshold of like being imposter syndrome versus just like being a little critical of your work and trying to like improve it. If it causes anxiety, like even outside of work, if it's like the recurring themes, like every now and again being critical of your work is probably not a bad thing.
Right.
Well, kind of like anxiety can be a good thing. There's a reason why we have it.
True.
Yeah. No, it's just as when I was growing up and when I started to get into like web development and design and graphic design and stuff like that, I don't always like to paint a picture of my parents as bad people, because they're not. They're just very traditional, and there are just certain values that they always try to uphold. And when I do things for a family, I've never accepted money, regardless of how long it's taken me. So there are some projects that I've spent hours on, days on, weeks on. And whenever whenever the project was complete, my parents were always like haggling me about either not charging them or doing it for cheaper and stuff like that. And it's just like, so whenever I started to be a freelancer, that idea just kind of stuck to me. It kind of lingered in my head, where when I did work for people, I always charged so significantly lower than everybody else, because I would reach out to some developers and they'd be like, oh dude, I charge like 8,000 to 10,000 for a website. How much do you charge? I'm like 500-600. They're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, how many hours are you dumping into these sites? I was like, sometimes it takes me weeks. Sometimes, I can crank these out in a couple days. They're just like, so it's just worth it. I mean, all that time you dedicate to doing that work, you only charge like just a few $100.
Yeah,
So
what
how
would
is that
that
even?
what would that work out to? Like if you were like 8 hours a day, let's say a project took you 3-4 days and you charge $600, how much an hour would you be charging?
Yeah. I mean, it's still a good chunk of change, but it's like
I feel like
I
it's
also
probably
have
low.
yeah, but I also have like expenses and stuff like that on my end. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
always like it's always like I always had the idea that my work is always undervalued, like it's not really worth it. I've had people tell me that it wasn't worth it, and so it kind of it dug pretty deep into me. So I'm not sure if that is like signs of imposter syndrome because I feel as if in a way I was kind of conditioned to think like that.
You internalize the messages that you were being
Right,
given. Yeah.
right,
What's interesting though is in cases where like that there's no like real root, like is like in Denphasia's example, you weren't being told going into grad school that you're like you can't do this, you're dumb, you're not gonna like
No.
yeah. So these are all
People were
messages that
questioning why philosophy, but
well that's true.
right. Yeah. So were you ever conditioned to think this way? I would assume the answer is no, based off what Don just said.
no, yeah, no. I think a part of it too might be the work that I do. Number one, there's not. I mean, there's more women now than they used to be, but it's still not anywhere near approaching like the same number as there are men. I
Right.
think the other part of it is pre-pandemic when I would be going into the office, and even before I had this job and I was working and I was having to go into the city, I don't look like anybody else in the sense of like I don't wear J. Crew and Banana Republic. I have bright red, short, curly hair and huge glasses. And I already got that nickname. People were referring to me, oh, the girl with the glasses and my hair. And I usually would come in with like a big sweater that was cute, and I would dress it up with like cute accessories and stuff and like combat boots. But that was my professional office attire.
So does syndrome necessarily mean you're conditioned for it? I mean, what are the criteria to have imposter syndrome?
It's actually funny you mentioned that because I have pulled up here. I've actually never looked into this, if I'm being completely
Right.
honest. Probably should.
There's actually criteria?
Well, no. I mean, no. So it's not like in the DSM. It's not a diagnosis, right?
Right.
People have studied the phenomenon and have written about it. It does say here that it's typically categorized as a reaction to stimuli and events. There's a 5 scale. Someone in 1985 wrote a paper about this, and they came up with like the imposter phenomenon scale or the CIP, and it's determined characteristics. And there's like 5 different types apparently of imposter syndrome according to this person.
But what are the criteria? Like what kind of check boxes?
So this person theorized that at least 2 of these must be present, right? So there's what he calls the imposter cycle, which I'll get into in a second because it's like there's a whole fucking thing about that.
Sure.
The need to be special or the best, characteristics of Superman/Superwoman, a fear of failure, denial of ability and discounting praise, and feeling fear and guilt about success.
I don't really care about
Huh.
that one, but I had 3 of those.
Do you care to share?
Well, it was the it was the one fear. So fear of failure, discounting, compliments, and the need to be the best.
Yeah, I agree with those. I agree with your
I have
assessment.
I have
I'm
2
glad
of what you
agree
have.
with my personal assessment.
And Color has 2 of those.
Yeah, I have two of what Denphasia just said.
So, according to some studies, they believe that 70% of people experience this at some point in their career.
Okay. Well, then it seems like a pretty normal thing then, right?
And there's a book. So, one study, Valerie Young, she's looked into this deeper and has a couple books on it. The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women, Why Capable People Suffer from Imposter Syndrome and How to Thrive Despite of It, or In Spite of It. And she came up with these 5 subgroups. So you have the perfectionist, the Superman or woman, the natural genius, the soloist, and the expert. Yeah.
Interesting.
And apparently women tend to experience this in regard to performance, while men are more likely to do it out of fear of being unsuccessful or not good enough, according to studies.
That's interesting. I mean, I would personally relate to that. The fear, like, needing to perform well.
And that's what my client experiences too. The one that is going through similar, yeah.
And I guess perform to the standards that I have set for myself, which apparently are quite high.
I mean, would you say that's kind of common though?
So I kind of view it as it can come and go just as depression and anxiety can.
Because I'm afraid of doing a shitty job too. You know what I mean? Especially in like the creative field. This is like, I don't know if they're gonna like this. Or
Yeah.
you know, there's
That
you
would
know,
actually make
like
sense that a lot of people in creative and artistic industries would probably experience that.
right. It's weird. I used to work for a photographer a long time ago, and apparently she was a really popular one, and I had no idea. She struck my ego a lot, and I don't think she did it because, you know, she wanted to, but that like working with her helped me out a lot. And she's had like her own spread in National Geographic and stuff like that. So she's that kind of photographer. So what she does now, she travels all over the world and she does nature photography. It's what she's passionate about. And she does master classes for Nikon and stuff like that. So she's really up there. And she said something really interesting to me. And she said, "You're very creative, yet you're also very technical. Like you have great attention to detail, but you're also very like creative at the same time." And she was like, I don't encounter people like that. Like I don't think I ever have. So that struck my ego a lot, and it gave me a lot more confidence. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's common with a lot of people. I feel like it's common with, you know, all sorts of folks. I don't know.
So I have a question though. So I have a mentor that does very similar things, and I even like would let him know like, yeah, I'm nervous about this briefing, and I would kind of like, he would be my sounding board, and I would run through it super quick and be like, oh no, this is great, like you don't even do worry. He's very good about stroking my ego about like that. But
Right.
I think where the imposter syndrome comes in is I have to talk myself out of my first reaction being he's lying. Like
Right.
he's not being honest. He's not being honest with me. He's just stroking my ego
Right.
because he thinks I need that right now, and it's not at all what I would be. What the goal of me telling him I was nervous and wanting to do a dry run would be.
Right.
I'm not looking. I'm not fishing. I promise.
Right. Yeah, I had to talk myself out of that a lot too, and I think that's a really good start. It was like, you know, don't think that they're lying to you. And so I forgot where I was going to go with this. I kind of lost my train of thought. But I mean, yeah, I mean it's yeah, because I think of it like when I'm in a work setting, like there's no reason for them to stroke my ego. You know what I mean? I think a lot of workplaces naturally just kind of have a competitive nature, and I don't think anybody is obligated to kind of bring you up if they don't have to. Like they don't have to say like your work is really good. They don't have to compliment. You know what I mean? A lot of them can be like, okay, great. You know, it's they have no reason to. So when they do, I take it as they probably do actually like it.
That's actually that's a good point. Because where I work, like I don't have like a boss in the traditional sense. I am
Right.
not assigned work.
Sure.
I have to find work within the organization.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, really, especially in that kind of situation where I don't really have supervisors, I have nobody giving me the work that I have,
Right.
because they have to.
Right.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I will pocket that.
Hopefully that helps. That's something that I tell myself sometimes. It's just like I like no one's obligated to give me compliments. Like if it's in my personal life, you know, I kind of judge my own work, and I always get feedback from other people. And the feedback that I get from other people, I feel as if they would be honest with me. And I know it's not out of ill intent, like if they are, you know, critical of my work, but I think they would be honest with me because they want me to succeed. And it's not so much like they're trying to break me down or do me wrong in any way, because I've gotten pretty good at identifying that. Like if someone is just kind of like trying to one up me all the time. I have some friends. Nice. I've had some friends who, well, friends who have tried to do that, and I'm able to identify like who is trying to break me down and who is trying to actually help me.
See, I would actually prefer more criticism, though.
Right. I think it depends on how the criticism is delivered as well, because I think criticism is always, there's a good and a bad.
It needs to be constructive.
Yeah, exactly. It needs to be constructive. There needs to be some kind of way that tells me like, hey, this is what I like about it, but I would like to see this. Like a compliment sandwich,
yes,
right?
The sandwich.
Like
Sandwich
a compliment sandwich.
It's very
yeah.
effective.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just think it comes through experience. Like you're able to identify it, when someone is feeling a little jealous, when someone is like, oh, I wish I can do that, but they're doing it and I don't like it because I'm not included and stuff like that. I've gotten pretty good at identifying, and it's hard. It's hard to describe, but tone, body language, the language that they use in itself, you're kind of able to identify it. But either way, I don't think I'll ever allow other people to devalue my hard work or devalue who I am, because the only person who knows how much blood, sweat, and tears that I put into my work is me, and I have to be my own validation. It's like I kind of have to sit back and look at the things that I do and go, I put a lot of time into this, and I know I did a pretty good job, so I should give myself that. If anybody wants to give me criticism, I'm going to ask the people who I can trust, who will be honest with me and not like necessarily like tear me down. And everything that they tell me is, for my own benefit, and not to tell me that I'm not worth it.
So, I mean, I think that's a really, really good perspective to have. My problem is the exact opposite. I think people overvalue my work.
Okay.
So why would they overvalue it?
If they can sell it to a sponsor, then that's a win for them.
So you think that they are hoping that the sponsor... Jesus.
I think I'm rubbing off on you, man.
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling fucking super gassy today too. You're coming out of the basement and the attic, my dude. You just can't hear it. That's all. Well, in the attic you can.
So you think that? Okay. So you think that? I'm about to burp again. Jesus Christ. I really am.
Go for it.
Just get it out all at once. Maybe it'll be really
I know.
good.
I'll join you.
That
I have my
weak.
Pellegrino.
That was a weak one.
So what I'm trying to say, if my gas will allow me to, is what the fuck was I even saying? Okay, here we go. I got it. So you think that the people that are pitching the work to the sponsors are assuming that they are as ignorant or whatever to see this work that you deem is not that great as being something really great, and that the sponsor will eat it up if they say this is good. Like you're giving them dog food but telling them it's filet mignon and they're going to eat it with a smile.
And it's one level removed at that point from the source of production.
Have you ever thought of what your perfect work would look like? Have you ever thought like, this is when it's perfect? Have you ever thought of that?
Maybe not, but right now my answer to that would be when I think it's good.
That's such a cop-out answer.
So how? I mean, what would that look like though? So let's say you took on a project, a research project.
Yeah.
Like what would make it like perfect? What would make it like good, in your opinion? Have you ever thought of that? I mean, of course, you don't have a project now that you're working on at this moment, so you can't really tell me. But have you ever thought of like?
I can't tell you.
Right. But have you ever asked yourself? It's like it's not good until it looks like this. Have you ever said that to yourself?
Maybe not, because none of my projects are the same.
Sure, but how would you know?
Not in nature or content.
Okay, so how would you know if it's good or not?
It always exactly. That's kind of my point. Is how can I gauge that? Because I never do this. Like, people say that you'll end up doing the same thing over and over again, but what I found thus far is it's just in name only. They just call doing this one process this, but yeah, like it's completely different based on what the sponsor needs and who the sponsor is.
So it sounds like the success in your line of work is pleasing your sponsors.
Yeah.
So success is when the sponsor is happy
Yes,
with the work.
Absolutely.
So is the sponsor ever not happy with your work?
Yes.
With your
Okay.
work.
No, okay, with my work personally.
Not can a sponsor not be happy? 'Cause I'm sure the answer is yes.
Right, yeah,
Like a
of
sponsor could obviously, if you hand them a piece of paper that just says like diddly do, and they're like, "What the fuck is this? I asked you to research
Diddly do.
this big thing, and you give me this piece of shit." You know, but
Well,
Right.
and one thing where I work prides itself on is we are, as an organization, willing to tell the sponsor things that they don't want to hear, if it's
Sure.
backed up by like evidence-based, rigorous research.
Sure.
here's a question. I got a question.
Okay.
The people that are pitching the projects to the sponsors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have a vested interest in pitching quality work for the reputation of the organization?
Yes, and they're getting tagged to lead future projects.
Okay. So it behooves them and the company that you work for to not hand over dog meat and say it's filet mignon.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you hand a project over to the sponsor, and not the sponsor, to the manager hands it to the sponsor, whatever the proper terms are for your hierarchy there, which I'm sure I didn't get right, but that's fine. Is it safe to assume then that they have the best interest of the company and the reputation, trying to get future work down the road?
Well, except the sponsor cannot like good work because it's not what they wanted to hear.
Okay. So it sounds like the definition of good work is not the sponsor is happy.
I guess no. I guess if it's my organization that's happy. And other people that work at my organization, because that's what gets me more work.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Hope I muted on time.
I
I sneezed.
I
did not catch that
Okay.
at all, so you must
Awesome.
have done that perfectly.
Yeah, I didn't
Perfect.
hear anything.
Because I just sneezed. I didn't want to blow out anybody's eardrums. Yeah.
Part
So
of
I
it,
mean,
too, is like I always feel like there's always things to improve on, but I have to know what those things are
Sure.
in order to improve upon them, and I don't feel like right now I have good insight into what that is.
sure. So you can't really say your work is bad, right?
Well,
Can't really say it's not good enough.
it's doing the job for me right now. I just don't understand why.
Well, and you've gotten an award or like a recognition for one of the things that you worked on.
Again, and I don't understand why, because I didn't really feel like I did shit.
Yeah. Now, could that be minimizing praise or like devaluing praise, which is one of the criteria of the syndrome?
I mean,
Deniability
it's
of
possible,
ability.
but like
and
I
praise.
really don't feel like I did shit. I did not work super hard on that I got that recognition for. That's my perception of it, is that I did not work super hard.
And that's what determines whether your work is good or not, is how much time you spent on it.
That's probably part of it. I am very proud of my work ethic. I do work very hard.
Right.
So, do you want to hear some correlations?
Yeah.
So, research has shown correlations between imposter syndrome or phenomenon, whatever you want to call it, and the following factors: family expectations, overprotective parents, graduate level coursework,
Do what?
graduate level coursework,
Okay.
racial identities, attribution style, which I'm not really sure what they're
Yeah, I
referring
wonder what that
to
means.
in that, anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, perfectionism, excessive self-monitoring with an emphasis on self-worth.
Like, I'm fine on the self-esteem part and the parental expectation. I definitely had they were definitely overprotective, but I was also an only child.
Also, apparently
Yeah, me
being
too.
referred to as the smart one, the talented one, the responsible one, the sensitive one, the good one, or our favorite are also correlated to it as well.
The smart one. I had a cousin that was just a little bit older than I was. She was the pretty one, and I was the smart one. That was fun. Being like a teenage girl. Super fun.
Yeah, I don't know if being Asian falls anywhere in that category.
Racial identities,
Yeah.
expectations from family,
Yeah.
going off stereotypes of what I know of, typical Asian families. Is that, would you say that's accurate, that there's high expectations from
And
family?
probably the overly self-monitoring.
Yeah, that too.
Okay, so that's okay, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that'll come a long way, huh?
Huh?
I guess I've come a long way then, huh?
So I actually don't really experience this. Like, I have moments of doubt, obviously. I think everyone does. But, like, for the most part, I don't think this is something that I struggle with. I do have moments, though, where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But I think in my field, that is, like, that's, like, common. Because you never know what you're going to get. And your training doesn't teach you how to solve all the problems in the world, right? So, like, it's common that I'll get a client, I'm just like, buddy, I don't know what the fuck to do with you, but we're going to try to figure it out, but...
Well, and there's been times where you've literally said the phrase on multiple occasions, you were too good at your job.
I have said that, yeah. That is true.
I have never said that.
That's more of a joke when I lose a client because they got better.
Yeah. I was just joking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime I have to decrease a client to every other week or once a month
I'm too good about your
yeah,
job.
or stop seeing them, that's what I say. Because it's affecting my wallet. But
Yeah.
I wonder if that plays a role into it, though. You view a job, or the way you just phrased it, kind of understands a job just in terms of what it does for you financially. I probably attach more self-worth to what I do and what I produce.
And the reason for that is because if in a perfect world I wouldn't work. Like I could be
fine with that.
I could be happy in life never having to do a job ever again. Like I'd be fine.
I don't know. I have to work.
Dude, I would just play video games and stream, and I'd be very happy and content.
Yeah, I have to work too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to work. I have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure you know that by now. I always have to be occupied with something. Like I can't just sit there and not do anything. Like I want to make a difference, and I'm not sure if that's correlated to anything, but.
Well, I would say I want to make a difference, but like I would definitely be happy not having to work ever again.
Sure.
I feel like if I didn't have to work, I would probably do something to try to help people of some sort.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, right? I would find another way to make money.
True.
I guess it depends on what you define as work,
Anything you're obligated to do to make money. Let me say that. Anything you're obligated to do to make money.
Right.
Yeah. Like if I never had to work. Yeah, like to me, a job is an obligation because you have to have the financial income.
Yeah, so you're tying it to what it does for you financially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I see.
And that's why we work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in part, I think for me, part of it is too, I want to create or have some kind of lasting positive change, like impact.
Mm.
Right.
But one could do that without working a job.
Yes, but I mean,
Right.
you're getting two birds stoned at once if you do it for your job that you get paid for.
True.
Yeah. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I don't see it. That would be like, I don't want to say the lowest form of work, but that's like the most happiest form of work, I would say.
Yeah, because you're doing something you want to be doing, not just
still-
because you're obligated.
Right.
And you need money.
But I mean, don't you think obligation kind of ties to that? Like once I've dedicated myself to something, I'm kind of obligated towards that. I mean, because I can't just like up and drop it, right?
I mean, people do that all the time with work, right? leave a job. We did that with our last job.
Right. Yeah.
We didn't stay there until we died. We were just like, all right, fuck this shit.
Yeah. True. Yeah. I mean, I just think, you know, if I was to do whatever project that I was to do, you know, regardless whether it's work or not, I still feel like there are some obligations attached to it. You know, and I'm not sure if that's a moral thing or if that's kind of like a by the book type thing, but I don't know. I feel like, you know, whatever I'm doing now with Phoenix and stuff like that, I feel like I'm obligated to that now.
So you feel
And
like
there's nothing...
you attach a moral duty.
Right. Right.
That's interesting.
But I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Dontoni, would you say you attach a moral duty to your work?
A moral duty to do my work? Or, like, do I bring morals into
the work
into my
that
work?
you do. Not to do your work, but to the work that you do.
I mean, I feel like ethical and moral obligations within my work that I have to hold up and, like, you know, that I subscribe to.
You know, HIPAA is a thing.
Yeah, even outside of HIPAA, we have a code of ethics and stuff that go further than just privacy. But
yeah, but like if those things, you know, those things set aside, do you have a moral duty to do, or do you feel a moral duty to do the work that you do?
No, not to do the work that I do now. I don't think I'm like morally obligated to be a therapist and do this work. Because again, if like we were ever in a position where I didn't have to work, I would stop doing it probably. I probably would. Like, I don't think I would. You never know. Maybe I would have like one client or two clients like that I see and that's it. But like, I wouldn't feel like I have to do this now. I've helped enough people to make up for the harm I put into the world in my life that like I could quit tomorrow and be fine. Which is why I started doing this, was to try to like rebalance the scales, because I was a piece of shit growing up and a pain in the ass. So,
were you really?
Dude, yeah.
I can never imagine you like that.
Stories,
I once pissed all over a total stranger and ridiculed them while peeing on them.
which I just think is hilarious.
Yeah. I will tell that story because it's funny and why not? So
And it's not who you are now.
it's not who I am now. So I was young. I was like 16, 17.
Oh, well, I mean, come on.
Dude, it was mean, man. It still affects the person to this day, and I have evidence of that. It still impacts this person to this day.
Really?
Yeah, and I can I can tell you why after. But so I was young. We in high school would like get drunk and go downtown and hang out, because downtown is a small town I grew up with, like a college, so there was like a campus nearby. It bled into the downtown. So we would play this game, so to speak, where we would go to the student center to use the bathroom, and we would try to piss on each other, like under the stalls, right? So I ran in first, because I wanted to get the best stall position, because the floor was kind of slanted, so the piss would trickle down. So you wanted to get the right stall position, so you were like number one horse in the race kind of thing.
Right.
I run in there, but I didn't realize I was the first one in. I get the stall, and I see a pair of shoes right next to me, and I think it's my friend. So I start peeing in his shoes. And the whole time I'm ridiculing him, like, you're getting soggy, bitch. How do you like this shit? Stuff like that, like the whole time. And it was a big pee because I had drank a lot. And the whole time the dude didn't lift his feet up or anything. So I just like unloaded in the guy's shoes. He was not happy, clearly. He busted open my stall door, picked me up. I was a really skinny kid. I probably weighed like 110 pounds. So he picked me up and slammed me against the wall. And then I guess he noticed I was a little kid, right? And then he left. And he told my friends if I pissed on him again, he'd kick my ass. Okay, so I was like 16. I'm 33 now, so that was, a long time ago. Fast forward to 3 to 5 years ago. My brother, he still lives in the town. He overheard the dude who owned my favorite Greek restaurant in town. He overheard him telling a story about this piece of shit kid who ruined his day by pissing in his shoes. He had to go back to work with like piss-soaked shoes. It was like the worst day of his life. This was like 5 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I have lots of stories, and I have lots of stories like that. Like, I wasn't like
That's a tame one.
Yeah, I have a lot worse stories, which I'm not going to say on stream. But yeah.
I did something similar when I was a kid, but I was much, much younger. I think I was like 8 or 9 years old. And me and two of my friends, I used to go to a private school, the shittiest private school known to man, because we weren't assigned anything. Anyways, that's a different story. So it was recess, and we ran outside, and there's this tree that we like to climb, and we like to fuck around and whatever. And it was like in the corner of the playground. And so we thought it was funny to just pee in the dirt. So we peed in the dirt, and I accidentally pissed on his pants. And he fucking storms back, and he rats me out and tells me that I was pissing out in the dirt. And me being the stupid kid that I was, I didn't say shit. And I thought, like, what I did was wrong, but what they did was okay. And just keep in mind that growing up Asian, everything you do is wrong. If you did anything wrong, you get your ass kicked by all sorts of tools. And so, yeah, I just kind of accepted it. And not that funny of a story, but it's a little more depressing than funny.
A little bit, but that's okay.
I should have stood up for myself, which I didn't, because I thought
Did you get the switch? Did you have a switch? Is that a thing in Asian culture? Getting the switch?
What does that mean?
Do you have to go pick out? So you never had to go and pick your own switch? Like, so you have to go and pick out an acceptable stick branch to get your ass whooped with?
That's a Southern thing. If you fuck up in the South, you gotta go pick a switch and get beat with it, basically. And it's like a vine.
And you have
stick.
to pick it yourself. Yeah. And if they don't deem it acceptable, then you have to go pick another one.
No, it was always a hanger.
That sucks too.
Like a coat hanger?
Yeah.
Oof.
Like one of those thick plastic ones.
Yeah, because honestly, the thin shit is really what hurts the most.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But so the point of all of that is, no, I do not feel obligated morally to do my job.
Stories.
No, I don't. I also think as a society, we work way too much, and I think we draw too much like personal identity from the work we do and not who we are as people.
Right.
And I'm probably one of those that attaches too much self-worth to what I do.
Maybe. That's common, though. We all do. I mean, look at my dad now, who's like, coming up to retirement, and his whole big fear is no one's going to remember me. Because what am I going to do if I'm not working?
Right.
Who am I if I'm not so-and-so?
Well, he also has children, too. So,
Sure.
I mean, like, he created a legacy there, though his legacy will die. But he will not have grandchildren.
No.
But so maybe, I mean, I wonder if for me that's where part of it comes from, is I do not plan on reproducing, so the only impact I will have is what I do in my finite existence.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, in our lives, we spend way too much of our time on this earth working. And for most of us, is doing shit we don't want to be doing.
That is true.
Right.
And at least I do love my job. Like, this is my personal dream job. I have no plans on leaving ever. I never thought I would have a job, like an actual career.
You've never said exactly what you do. I know you don't. I know, like, you're not going to say where you work, things like that. But you also never said what you do besides you have a degree in philosophy.
So I do research and analysis for national security elements and the military.
I would have accepted, like, research and analysis would have been fine, too.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's broad enough.
It's broad.
There's plenty of people that do that.
Yeah. Well,
But I think that's also why, for me, I think it's important that I do a good job, is because it can be consequential.
Yeah.
Like, there can be consequences beyond even, like, related to my position in my organization.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense. I mean, I get that. Yeah, I mean, I guess a natural segue is kind of like, what can you do about it?
Yeah, that would be something I would love to learn. Would love to deal with this.
So, I mean, I've never studied this specifically. What makes most sense to me, and I've talked to you about this, and I actually have corroboration now from my from what I just looked up here. Basically, it seems like a CBT approach is the way to tackle this.
You know my feelings about
I know
CBT.
you do. But that's basically, from what I'm seeing, is like the real way.
So thought stopping, I'm sure.
Yeah, and changing those core beliefs about yourself and like, yeah, reframing current ideas.
So, okay, let's try for the reframing current ideas. Like, how would you even...
Well, Color did it really well earlier with you, when you even said that's a really good point. I'm going to take that to point. I mean, he was...
Oh, did I?
You did. You actually did. You actually did a really
Really?
good job on that. Yeah. You may not have known what you were doing, but you were using Socratic questioning to attack the core belief. And I would have to rewind the tape to see exactly what it is that you said, unless you guys remember. Does anyone remember what exactly was said?
No, it's sad. I do not, and I said I would pop
Oh,
it.
man, you should have written it down.
Okay, but no, we started this whole thing by like, talking about stairway
We have the
effects.
VOD.
It'll come
We have a
to
VOD.
me
We can check the
right
tape.
after we end this call, I am sure.
Probably. I mean, you can always check the tape later.
I don't like being put on the spot to being told to remember something.
Another thing that the literature shows is having a mentor program. So having someone that like mentors you in your field is another way to help.
I have that.
But it basically says that like, although imposter phenomenon, they call it imposter phenomenon. I've always heard it imposter syndrome. Maybe
They probably want to make a point that it's not
a mental
actually,
illness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a pathological condition. It is a distorted system of belief about oneself that can have a powerful negative impact on an individual's value of their own worth. So because it's a distorted system of beliefs, I think it's a safe jump to say CBT would be a way to go about it, because that's all about tackling your own beliefs, core values, self-talk, things like that.
So, I mean, based on that kind of definition, I'm actually wondering if there's any similarity to that, what you just said, in moral injury. Because that moral injury is when something that you go through that has a fundamental impact on how, it goes completely against your worldview. You do something where something happens to you that completely shatters the way you think the world is or ought to be. Yeah, so an injury to an individual's moral conscience and values resulting from an act or perceived moral transgression, which produces profound emotional guilt and shame. Is there any correlation there, like connection there?
I don't know.
Because that would at least be something I understand. Trying to find things that will make this easier for me to understand.
You know, one connection that I think could also be it, and I don't know why I never thought of this really until tonight, but I think there may be a big connection with this to being from the South and your fears of being perceived as, dumb.
Well, that's how this whole conversation started, actually.
It is, right? And that's also one of the correlations. I wouldn't say it's explicitly one of them, but one of the correlations they had was racial identities. I imagine cultural identities could play an effect on that as well. So maybe part of this is also that deep ingrained belief of,
As your dad would say, I'm just a dumb hillbilly that worked my ass off.
That is what my dad always says. Yeah.
And I have always understood it when he said that, because I get it. That's kind of how I feel too. I'm just a dumb hillbilly that worked her ass off and went to a lot of school.
Yeah, that's the lecture my dad would give me when I get bad grades when I was in high school. Was
that you're a dumb hillbilly?
No, that he's a dumb hillbilly and he was able to get his PhD in a full ride. So why the fuck are you getting bad grades? Is basically what he would say.
Because if you'd only apply yourself, you could do better.
Yeah, he'd be like, I remember my grandmother had dirt floors. I'm a dumb hillbilly and I have a PhD. Where are your degrees? Why are you getting an F? What's wrong with you? That sort of thing.
My parents can never use that again. None of them had college degrees.
Yeah.
Couldn't say much to me.
Well, I actually only found out late in life that only one of my parents actually finished their college degree, and I was under the impression for the majority of my life thus far that they both graduated.
Yeah.
Which is also interesting.
It's also interesting that they hid that from you, too.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess doubling back, like, so according to the literature, and this is actually what I'm doing with my client, is to try to combat this, is identifying. So they're doing a thought journal. So whenever they have these thoughts, they write them down first. So whenever those like pops in her head of like, you know, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve to be here, whatever it is, she writes down what happened before the thought and then how she felt afterwards and what the consequence was in her behavior is the first step. We found through looking at all the different thoughts, we then identified themes, right? Like what kind of thoughts are there? Are there themes to these thoughts? Things like that. We still haven't figured out the origin, honestly. The best guess we have is that she's a woman in a job that's primarily male.
Which I get.
That's the closest thing that we came up with. And she's a perfectionist. That's the other thing that we came up with.
Yeah.
So now that we've identified the thoughts together in session, we're like we were doing earlier with Socratic questioning, we were challenging these thoughts live. And when we came to a conclusion that was a better alternative, that was rational and that she would agree with, like objectively, like, yes, okay, I agree with what you've come up with. I may not believe it yet, but I agree with you. She then writes that down, and we're making a list of affirmations that she's telling herself multiple times a day. And when she catches herself during the day saying those, she tells herself stop, and then she replaces the thought. And over time, the idea is that you will internalize those messages, and it should over time change those beliefs is the idea here. I'm glad that what I'm doing is what the literature is saying also. I honestly haven't looked this up. I just assumed that like this is what we should probably do. So I just went with it. I'm glad now to see that that's actually what they say you should do. It's the same idea about how like if growing up, if you're bullied, you have low self-esteem because you were given these messages over and over again of I'm ugly, I'm fat, or whatever you were bullied for, right? And then even if it's not true, you internalize those messages and then it becomes a part of your belief system. So over time, whether it was self-inflicted or societal, you've given yourself messages of this in some way, whether it's I don't see other women in this job, maybe women can't do this job, whatever it is.
But so there's also a layer of this where it's like there's a part of me that just for me personally views it as somewhat beneficial to me because it always forces me to work that much harder because I do think people are overvaluing my work, so I constantly am trying to get my own perception up to what they think it is. That it helps me in my career, promotions, money.
I think you could still accomplish that if instead of I need to do really well to show that I'm worthy of being here, to show that I'm not an imposter, that I know what I'm doing. If it's I want to make an impact on the world and be the best I can be, that may be a more healthy way to still get that high level of drive to do the job instead of it being out of fear, instead of being out of like motivation to excel. You get what I'm saying?
So I get, I do totally get that. And what's odd is for me, it's the motivation to excel side. It's not. Sometimes they let the fear and anxiety, creep in, but that's probably not the majority of what I would lump into my own personal imposter syndrome or phenomena. I don't know if what I am driving towards is attainable.
Well, perfection isn't, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Perfection is never obtainable.
And that's the problem with being a perfectionist. But I have a hard time still not holding myself to trying. Like, I hate when people try and talk me out of being a perfectionist. Of, it's just not achievable. Why are you trying to do something that is impossible? It's just like, well, I can certainly fucking try.
I mean, it's like a...
Pride might be lumped into it a little bit too.
I'm trying not to stumble in my words. A Sisyphus-like task? A Sisyphean task? What is the term for a task that's like Sisyphus? Wasn't Sisyphus the dude who had to keep rolling that boulder up the hill, and when you get to the top, it would roll back down, and you had to keep pushing the boulder? Greek mythology?
I'm pretty sure that was Atlas.
Nah, Atlas had to like carry the world on his back or some shit. Isn't that Sisyphus?
I thought it was Atlas. Didn't Atlas carry the world on his back?
That's what I thought it was.
Sisyphus didn't have to carry a world. He had to push a boulder up a hill as his punishment for being vain or something. Yeah, Sisyphus.
Oh,
He was
you're
punished
right
for his
again.
self-aggrandizing craftiness and deceitfulness by being forced to roll an immense boulder up a hill for it to only roll down every time and near the top. He had to do this for eternity.
That sucks.
Yeah, so a Sisyphean task is a task that like is futile and you can never accomplish. A never-ending task that's repeated over and over again is fruitless and unrewarding. I was close. Sisyphean.
But
Sisyphean.
it is somewhat rewarding. You do get it up there a lot.
But you never finish the task. If it's to roll the boulder over the hill and it never gets over the hill for
But
eternity,
there's lots of times you get close.
every time he gets close, and then it rolls fucking back down, and he's like, "Fuck, man, I gotta do this shit again."
Well, when you roll it
Greek
over
gods
the
are
hill,
best.
doesn't it just go back down anyway?
So I think in his case,
I like that, actually.
I don't think he ever rolls it over though, or to the top of the hill or whatever. I think it's like he gets to the top and then it rolls back down.
Right.
Yeah, because the Greek gods were mean sons of bitches.
They were.
Is he and he was forced to push his boulder up a hill?
It was his
It was
punishment. It was his punishment by some god. I don't know which god did it to him, but yeah.
So wouldn't it be better to just not do it and end his misery?
I feel like okay. Let's see, who was it that made him?
Or is that a
do
bad
this?
message to send? I feel like that's kind of a bad message to send.
Just fucking give up. Why are you doing this?
So
Yeah.
So apparently it was like Zeus or Hades, depending on which version, chained him where that's all he could do is just sit there and roll it. And I don't know why he did not do it, right? Because you would think at some point you'd be like, fuck you, Zeus. I'm just going to lay here then.
Yeah.
How's
Smite
it
me if you want to.
persistence?
Better than this punishment.
Yeah.
Wow, it is 9:10.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
That went by very quickly.
It did.
Yeah. I had I was under the impression that this episode is gonna be a little short tonight, but no, I don't know. I think we got a lot of good information out of this one.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think like this is a very relatable issue that, I mean, according to what we saw earlier, 70% of people at some point experience this in their career.
Yeah.
And as more young women are getting educated, higher education, I imagine this is going to be more rampant. I've only seen it once in my job, but I'm sure it's going to be very common.
I would think also the area that we're in, it's probably going to be common too.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So, unless anyone has any questions, I guess we can wrap up. Are we off next week and then we'll come back on the 7th?
Yes, we are off next week. We'll be back on the 7th. Is to kind of give everybody some time to just chill and get everything together. And on the 7th, we're going to be having our podcast on the Phoenix Mental Health Twitch channel.
That'll be exciting.
Yeah.
It is exciting.
And we'll blast it out and let everyone know. All this week, well, from now till the 7th on my stream, I'm going to have a Nightbot command for the Twitter and the Twitch channel, just so anyone who follows me that wants to see this stuff. It'll also be in the description on YouTube when I upload this, along with last week's episode, because I haven't done that yet. So I'll put the links there also.
Yeah. And we have an exciting guest on October 7th and the 14th, and we're going to have more guests lined up as well.
Yeah.
I just have a lot on my plate, and I just haven't had a chance to think that far ahead for the podcast. But we do have some pretty, I should just say popular Twitch streamers coming on, so it should be exciting on the 7th.
Yeah, it'll be
That'd be
good.
really cool.
Yeah.
Well, Denphasia, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It was good talking with you.
Thanks for letting us pick your brain.
I'm only a few steps away.
That is accurate. That is accurate.
I'm quite accessible.
What? Dude, both of us tonight, man. We just
Yeah.
fucking nonstop, man.
It's the beer. I'm blaming mine on the
Maybe
beer.
it's like yawns where it's contagious.
What is the damn beans, man? They eat too much fucking fibers and shit.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you all for coming. We will see you again on the 7th.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.